Elizabeth the First. And then it's got some other little titles too, by Maria Perry. Let's have a look at these other titles, because they have a few. So there's just Elizabeth I, or Elizabeth the First, The Word of a Prince, and then A Life from Contemporary Documents. So however you want to call it. This is a Folio Society edition, and it's really nicely done. So of course it comes in a slipcover, as do most Folio Society books. And this one has seen a little bit of wear. But that's, down here there's, I don't know whether down here there's fading or up there. I guess down here there's some fading to it. And along the spine a little bit. Unless it was originally like that. Actually, I just don't know. See, I bought it used. I bought a lot of my books used, and this was one of them. Anyway, it has this design here. We'll put that aside. The book itself is quarter bound in this cloth, and then it has this vellum kind of covering here with Elizabeth's signature. And I just think it's very pretty. I really like the way that it looks. And the way that it feels. It's very smooth here, but the Elizabeth is pressed. You can feel the difference there, as well as on the side here. Here you can really see the fading of the spine. And so we keep it in a slipcover, and it really protects the book really very well. But it doesn't protect the spine, and I do very little to keep the spine protected. So I do keep it out of direct sunlight, but any kind of light eventually is going to break down the dye and the coloring, and so it's going to fade unless you put it behind glass or unless you protect it in some way, which I don't. Mind you, this might have already been faded by the time I bought it. So let's look at it as an object. It's a Folio Society book, so it's Smith sewn. It's not glued. These pages are going to stay in there a really long time. It's on acid-free paper. It's not going to crinkle or turn yellow or get brittle for hundreds of years. And on the inside, we have the same design as on the slipcover. And it's just packed with illustrations, or rather, images. Really, well, you can just see, just look at this. It's absolutely packed with images. And the paper itself is a nice, thick sort of paper. It feels kind of luxurious. It's very smooth and white. And then, like, I've come to a page without illustration or images, but there are so many, absolutely packed with images. There she is. So I'm a sucker for this kind of thing. I like a lot of images. And the book itself, so what it is, so Maria Perry, just make sure I got her name right there. So she's gone through and pulled out letters and maybe other writings from Elizabeth herself, and also from other people to Elizabeth. And she's put them in here with a lot of explanation. So it's not just sort of a history book telling about her life, and it's not just a collection of letters, but it's all these writings, all these letters with Perry's explanation of what's going on, which is very, very helpful, because otherwise I wouldn't have a clue. So I think she did a good job. I mean, I learned a lot about, well, I suppose I walked into it not knowing a ton about Elizabeth I. I mean, I knew something about Elizabeth I, but, I learned a lot, and I thought that, and it was an enjoyable experience learning it. This isn't a book that I've heard a lot of people talking about, But I got a lot out of it myself. So as you can see, there's a bit of a letter and then explanation. So one of these is going to be Mary, Mary the First here. So Elizabeth spent some fair amount of time thinking about and dealing with Mary, who was her half-sister and was always just about to have a little rebellion. Once Elizabeth became queen, Mary was like maybe just going to have a rebellion a little bit, and Elizabeth had a real test of her morals, which some people would say she failed. In any case, it starts when she's quite young. She spent some time in prison, basically. All right, I don't need to tell you about Elizabeth. You can learn about Elizabeth yourself. The book has this index, which is helpful, and the source notes. And just a lot of good information, a lot of her own writing, which is really interesting to read, and then the explanations about what the situation was. But it's really cool to read her own writing, because in most history books, you may get a snippet here or there, but here you really get a lot of her own writing. Okay, so that's it. I think it's a pretty book, because I really like the way this is done. I really like the Elizabeth on there. And there we have it. So that is Elizabeth I, Maria Perry, and it's a Folio Society edition.